I'll just, okay, call the meeting to order.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Ms. Balderota,
Here.
Ms. Balahi,
Here.
Mr. Kleiss,
Here.
Ms. Marlin,
Here.
Mr. Miles,
Here.
Mr. Shetty,
Present.
Ms. Welter. Mr. Curlin.
We have a
Just say here.
me? Yeah, I already did earlier.
Sure did.
So, we've got quorum? Okay. Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda? No. And then, move to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any updates or changes to that?
There, we found an edit that we needed to make in the
Okay.
meeting minutes. It'd been a really long time since we last met
Okay.
with meeting minutes. If you might recall, our last meeting was actually a postseason wrap-up. It wasn't a advisory, like, board meeting. So we'll update those meeting minutes
Okay.
and email them to you along with today's minutes. That way you have ample time to review them for the, no, for the July meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience on that.
Okay, so I guess we'll move into public input, and I know that we have Marsh from Sitka Salmon on via telephone
Yes.
calling in. Okay.
Sitka Salmon will be joining us remotely today. They are calling in, and so they will, if we want to respond to something they're saying, we'll have to be sure that our microphones are on and we're speaking clearly into the microphone so that they can hear us on the other end. And so Jason Liggett with UPTV will help us with this virtual communication. So, hello?
Yeah, you guys reach me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready for me to talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for giving me the time. I'd like to preface it with just that I think that the best farmers markets are ones that really look closely at all their vendors to make sure that they're, selling things that are directly from the producer. I think that makes a more vibrant food community. So I thank you for your time. I'll give you a little brief history about what we do. I'm a commercial fisherman. I grew up fishing in the waters off of Sitka, Alaska, and southeast Alaska. And in 2010, I became friends with a food professor who was working on his PhD, and we bonded over sharing meals together. And right around the time when I was buying my first boat, before that I was just crewing on other boats, he got his first teaching job at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. And so he did a little benefit dinner for an environmental nonprofit that he had worked with previously, and I sent some fish down, and everyone really loved the fish, and they wanted to know how to get more. And so there's a new kind of a food system, like a similar that had been kind of emerging at that time. So based on the concept of a CSA, but instead of agriculture, it's a fishery. So instead of a community CSA, we have a CSF, so Community Supported Fisheries. So basically, I sent some fish down, everyone loved it, and then they wanted to get more. So Nick kind of set it up to, he and some of his students at Knox College, to do it for a few months of my fish in the summertime, to deliver to people's doorsteps, to really make that connection of these small-scale, sustainable fisheries and fishermen, connect them directly to people in the Midwest where they didn't really have as good access to seafood. And so I thought the whole concept sounded really cool. And when I came down and met people who got my fish, I really was wanted to be part of it more. So I bought into the company, and I've been helping run it ever since then. So yeah, that's kind of the history of how we started. And what we do is we bring people 5-pound boxes of fish direct from our fishermen owners. So all the fishermen that sell us fish are owners of Sitka Salmon Shares. And then we bring it to the Midwest and deliver it to people's doorsteps in a 5-month increment each month. And with that, we include, notes from the fishing grounds, pictures, recipes, kind of how the fisheries are sustainable and how they're managed, and really try to connect people to what we're doing in Alaska. And a big part of that is that's helped us. This is different than a CSA. It's there's some large barriers, financial barriers, and infrastructure barriers to the fisheries, especially because we're freezing all of our fish. So it's more than just gathering your food and bringing it to a drop-off location. In order to freeze our fish, we have to have that done at a fish plant. And so the large fish plants don't really want to work with us. They'd rather have us not around. So in 2015, we took on our more fishermen owners and investment, and we bought our own fish plant. So that's where we do the filleting and the freezing of the fish to bring it down here. And so that was a big challenge because, for one, we didn't really know what we were doing, how to run a fish plant, but also, we didn't really have enough volume of our own fish running through there to cover all the huge fixed costs of running a fish plant, even though ours is small. Around that time, in 2014, we started doing farmers markets, and it was really great for us as a company to be able to get our fish out there to people. So really, I believe we have kind of that unique connection to the fishermen, and we can control the process so we get really perfect fish every time. And so I think farmers markets are really key for us in that, we can spend money on print advertising and we maybe get a couple members and it costs thousands of dollars and it's really frustrating. But if we do a farmers market, people are trying the fish in that area and signing up for our shares, and that kind of helps the kind of food system we imagine work better. So farmers markets have been really key for us. And if we open up any new markets, like now we're selling our shares in Champaign-Urbana, and any new market we start up, we don't have any farmers markets there. It's really challenging. You get a couple members at a time, and it's really slow to build and doesn't really make sense for us to do the deliveries there. So, key farmers markets are definitely a key part of what we do in sharing kind of our story. So that's kind of that's a little history of the company. I guess as far as the sustainability goes of our fish, I don't know if you guys are familiar with how the state of Alaska manages their fisheries, but salmon, for example, is, for one, they catch the fish is very low impact. So our salmon are hook and line caught in a method called trolling. So, we're literally pulling them in by individual hook and lure and hook and line. And for one, we can really control the quality that way. But if we catch any unwanted fish, what we call bycatch, we can release them alive, which is very different than a lot of the industrial fisheries. So the way we're harvesting them is very low impact, and the way the fisheries are managed themselves, it's part of Alaska's constitution to sustainably manage fisheries. So literally every major salmon stream has a counter, either person or electronic counter, counting the fish going up to spawn. And if not enough of those are what they call it escape up the river to spawn for the next year, then they'll shut down all the commercial fisheries. So it's really, Alaska's fisheries management is really based on that concept of only harvesting a small amount, enough for that population of fish to sustain itself in perpetuity. So it's really kind of unique in the world from wild fisheries, and especially where we are in southeast Alaska. There's lots of rules against consolidation, so it's really small scale owner operators out there catching fish. As fishermen, we really have a vested interest in in the fishery being healthy. So we're okay taking cutbacks and how much fish we can catch if we know it's because we buy boats, we buy permits, we're invested in it. You know, this is where we feed our families. So we're okay at taking those cutbacks, knowing that it's for the greater health of the fish population. And on top of that, Sitka Salmon Shares, we donate 1% to the wild. So 1% of our gross profits go to helping the environment because, I mean, as you guys probably know, salmon spawn in freshwater environments. They really need clean, healthy rivers systems and lakes to maintain themselves. So right now we're working on a documentary called Last Man Fishing, kind of raising awareness about small-scale fisheries. But we try to support lots of different causes, anti-logging, anti-mining causes to kind of that goes in line with what we do.
Marsh?
Yeah, I guess I have some. If anyone has any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you.
This is Natalie. Hi, Marsh. Nice to meet you over the phone. I wanted to let the board know one of the reasons why Sitka Salmon is joining us today is because they have put in an application to attend Market at the Square this season. And I had suggested that they speak with the advisory board because this is a different type of vendor to apply to the farmers market, and it doesn't exactly fall in line with our vendor handbook, with our rules and our regulations. And so I wanted to give Sitka Salmon the opportunity to talk to you and for you to get to know them and advise staff on how we should be moving forward. So this is your opportunity to chat with their staff, and we appreciate Marsh calling in today and spending some time with us, albeit virtually.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, this is Stan. Questioning for Natalie, I think. In our handbook, does it say it has to be Illinois grown? I think.
This is Natalie. I'm going to turn to that part of the handbook. It says, farmers and growers who bring product to market must be 100% grown and harvested on farmland in Illinois that they own or operate. That is one of the items in the handbook, which I've included a copy of the handbook in here, but it's on the page. I think my page number got cut off on the copy.
So, Stan again, so would we need to change the handbook first? Or amend it or do something?
Well, there's pros and cons with doing that. We have defined the word local for our market as within the state of Illinois. And so if one of the reasons why I'm bringing this to your attention is if there is a product that isn't currently available within our product mix, and that's something that you'd like to see at the market or incorporate, perhaps we take those on a case-by-case basis as they come up or make themselves available. That way we stay true to our handbook. That way we stay true to our definition of local, and that ties into our strategic plan. At this point, we won't make any changes to the handbook in the season. Sorry. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Shay, and I just wanted to clarify your business model a little bit. Are you a co-op where you're a distribution center for fishers in your area, or what is your business model?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, we're a cooperative. Our company's not completely fisherman owned. It's about 35% fisherman owned. So those fishermen bought in to own part of Salmon Shares, and then we support their catch. So just like a small scale farmer, it's like has challenges selling on a global commodities market. the same happens with fisheries, whereas your fish price can be based on, no matter how nicely you treated it, based on all these different things out of your control. So what we offer them is a stable price and market for their fish. So yeah, that's our model. So we take fish from our fishermen owners and distribute it here in the Midwest. So similar to a CSA model.
Okay, thanks. Just a follow-up question. It's 35% owned by fishers. Who owns the rest?
So we had some initial students that are owners. So the founders of the company. So I was like a fisherman founder, but I wasn't the one who started the company with Nick. So Nick owns a large stake, and as well as those first students that helped start it at Knox College, they own a stake. And then we had to raise a significant amount of capital the last couple of years to buy the plant. So small scale fishermen don't always, the ones that are the best to work with don't have lots of extra money. So we weren't able to raise all the money we needed from just fishermen. So that's, kind of angel investors, people that, a lot of them are actually members of our CSF and liked what we did and wanted to own part of it. So those are investors.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
I just have a comment. My name's Diane, and I'm speaking both as a consumer of the salmon and sitting on this advisory board. So I think the approach of taking these applications on a case-by-case basis is a good way to do it. And we should also think about expanding the products at the market to include things that aren't available even in the state of Illinois, or couldn't be produced in the state of Illinois. So this would fit into that category. As a consumer, I happened upon this salmon at one of the indoor markets this year and bought some, and it was delicious. And having spent 10 days in Alaska a few years ago eating nothing but salmon and halibut, it was wonderful. So I'm personally happy to see this this product here. I think it just provides the variety that people are looking for.
Thank you.
Stan again. I think I'm on. Would it be wise then, knowing going into this, if something local or something Illinois does show up similar, that they would have precedence or not? I'm just an idea. I'm just throwing it out there.
You mean Illinois raised salmon, or
or fish, or I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. Because I know there's a maple syrup thing, I think, and it's the same deal. And they're working toward local, but they're not yet. So you get what I'm trying to mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead.
I was just asking if there was any other questions. Okay.
Natalie, what's the plan here? Are we voting on a recommendation for you, or are we going to have more discussion?
That's a great question. Since we've never had this happen before, I'm up for discussion on what you think, and would like your recommendation, so staff can move forward, especially with the timeline we have to work with and the season starting soon. I'd like to have a discussion sooner rather than later, and so that they know what's happening as well. So, yeah. We also have other public input today too, and I want to be cognizant of their schedule and time as well. So if there aren't any other questions right now for Sitka, then we can move on to the next public comment.
Okay.
Thanks for taking the time, Mars.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a chance.
Okay. Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay. Who do we have? Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Leslie Cooper Band, and I'm here to talk about the movement of vendors from the North Row at the market to different spots. I've already met with Natalie and Sterling to discuss my concerns, but I think that it's important that the advisory committee hear the concerns that I have as a long-standing vendor at the farmers market about the decisions to move vendors without really having a thoughtful process that engages not only you guys but the vendor community at large. I know that there was a meeting that was held in January, but we received a letter, an email letter from Natalie a couple of weeks ago informing us about this change, and we were not involved in the process of where we would get moved to initially. So I came and met with Natalie and Sterling last week and voiced my concerns, and they had suggested that I could be moved to a different location. And I came away from that meeting not feeling really good about that interaction because I feel that just making a decision to move people based on the need to fill in spaces, which is the primary rationale for moving vendors this year, is to fill in vacancies and also to create a wider space for people, for patrons to hang out on the north side was the other reason that was given to me. The more I thought about it, the more I thought that we really need to have a more thoughtful process to determine where vendors should be placed to make the market more conducive for shopping. As a long-standing vendor, we've been coming to the market consistently year after year, rain or shine, snow blizzards included, since 2005. And we felt that we were just kind of moved to a spot that is completely different from where we have been for the past several years. Will make it really difficult for our patrons to find us, or for other people who may be new patrons. Our sales have already been declining over the past 5 years to the point where they're now about 60% of what they used to be. And I think we all need to have a really frank conversation about what it's going to take to create a more thoughtful pattern that's conducive to shopping at the farmers market, not just hanging out, not just buying prepared food from the food trucks or buying donuts. We should be all the decisions should be emanating from the first and foremost thought that this is a market for our region's farmers to showcase their farm products, and how do we get people to see this as a place where they do their weekly shopping for those products, and not as just a social venue or a place to grab a bite to eat. Those are all secondary things. The primary focus should be on helping the farmers make a living. And for those of us whose livelihood depends on the farmers market, the decision to move people just so that you can fill in spaces, the more I thought about it, just didn't seem like a well thought out strategy. So I'm here to suggest that maybe we have a moratorium on moving until we've had an opportunity to really have a thoughtful discussion about how to make the market more conducive for shopping.
Question, Leslie, I'm looking at you. Sorry, I'm getting old. Short version, how would you envision that process?
Well,
knowing how farmers are and how everybody...
yeah, I mean, I think that really the best time of year for that discussion to happen is when none of us are in production. So this time of year, it's going to be really tough. But it's, you know, it's also, I came, this is not a really good time for me to be here either. We have feeding chores right now. But I came because this is a very important idea for our farm, and really can make or break how much money we make every week at the market. So I think the winter is the best time to have that kind of discussion and think about, you know, I think if you're going to make changes, then maybe it's time to really think about placement of everybody as a whole and how we make it so that it's easier for people to shop. And I didn't necessarily come here to offer those ideas. I came here to say, let's maybe put the brakes on this until we can have time to really hash it out in a more comprehensive way.
But gaps don't show up until now. I mean, we can talk about it in the wintertime, but Natalie don't know until who signs up and who don't where the gaps are going to be.
But that's besides the point. The gaps, to me, is not the issue. The issue is, how do people shop? What configuration do you need to create to have a market that's easy to shop? And right now, there's no rhyme or reason except for seniority for some people to their placement at the market. There isn't. If your focus is on helping people get their week's supply of staples or flowers or whatever, you know, the primary raw product that we all produce, what configuration is the best? And it doesn't matter who all has signed up or not. I mean, you know, most people are coming back year after year, the core people that are the stalwarts of the vendors of the farmers market. They're the ones that should be really at the heart of the discussion, because they're the ones, I'm not talking about, you know, your temporary fly-by-night people who show up. I mean, you kind of know, like, Shopman Brothers are going to show up when sweet corn is ready. I mean, they have been coming for years and years. So I think waiting until this time of year to determine where people get put just because you're waiting for people to submit their applications isn't necessarily the right time to engage in this discussion.
I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I just know how farmers and vendors are. Everybody thinks they're important. So you start moving people around, you're gonna have a nightmare.
Well, I mean, what I'm envisioning is that the whole thing gets thrown into a pot and discussed, not just like picking and choosing individuals, but thinking about the flow pattern and how people walk and how people discover. I mean, there's like a science behind how you can help people, and so you can ensure that they get access to all the vendors. I mean, the parking lot that we have is a terrible model or framework to just move people around in, because unless people want to go up and down aisles, they're not going to do it. They have their set vendors that they go to. They know exactly where they are. What I'm saying is, you know, maybe we have like a circle that and there's nothing in between, or maybe all the food is on the periphery, raw product is on the periphery, and other stuff is in the middle. You know, there's different ways that you can do this, but it's gonna need to impact all of us. It's not just gonna have to impact the ones who just happen to be located in a certain location that no longer is considered desirable for vendors. I mean, you know, why the north end? Why not the south end? You know, I mean, I don't really understand the rationale for it.
But the front row's prime location. Everybody knows that. Most people, not most, but a majority go 2 rows and that's it. We just know that, unless they're coming for food trucks. They're not going to want to move. They're not going to want to give up that front row. You know, it just is what it is.
Well, that's because of the way the market is currently configured. if you just start from ground zero and you said, you know, we're not taking the market as it is and just doing minor tweaks, we're thinking about the market as a whole and the space that we have and how do we configure it, then everybody gets moved. It's not that one section stays the same and everybody else adapts to that. I think you know, the time has come. We have to think of some creative ways to make it easier for people to shop, and having more space for them to congregate so they can drink coffee and eat donuts or whatever. That's not the solution. I mean, I watch people stand in line for donuts, hurry back to their cars, and leave.
Would they have been there other than that? I mean,
Well, what difference does it make if all they're doing is buying donuts?
well, it matters to, what's the guy's name? Pandemonium. It matters to them guys.
So, but is that what we want a farmer's market to be?
I don't know. I think there's a mix of everybody helps. I mean, everybody has their people and they bring them in. This is just my opinion, but it helps to bring more people in. So if they bring in 20 people, hopefully they'll filter down and buy some meat. I don't know. I mean, we get some people that's bought donuts and come down. I hate to segregate. I don't know, but I think everybody brings stuff to the market. I'm more concerned about saturation than I am product mix.
Well, I'm concerned about product mix. I'm concerned about authenticity of the farms. I'm concerned about how easy it is for people to find the different products that are available, making it easy for them to find the vegetable people that they want, the meat people that they want, the eggs, the cheese, whatever it is, and to make it known that all of these different types of products are available, and you know, here it is, here's how you can access all of this. Right now it's just you walk in and you're just like, okay, where do I start? If you're a new shopper in this area, how do you figure out how to find the vendors that you want?
Natalie, is there a market map up there?
At the market, there's a market map?
At the market, we do have a map available, a printed one, because the fluctuation in vendor locations and spots on a week-to-week, or we'll say month-to-month basis for some of the seasonal products, that changes. And so we do have the online interactive map that we've had since 2013, and you can look at that on a week-by-week basis to see who's going to be there. Click on spots. It tells you the vendor's name, a brief description of the vendor, and it connects you to their social media and website. The map that we have at the market is a printout map that looks similar to, this one. And then on the opposite side, it has a list of all the SNAP eligible vendors and what location they're in and space number. And we hand that out when we make SNAP transactions, or if there's people that want to have a map to take around with them, then they can see the layout of the market. But typically the questions that are asked to staff are, where is this person, or where can I find this product? That's just been my experience at the staff booth. I don't know if you have any comment, Suki.
They ask where a certain person or a product is located. We show them on the map where they can find it.
If they ask, yeah.
Because I know, like, personally for us, Kelly, the Piatto has been a good fit. They help us out. So that's just me. So, she sells food, but...
But she uses some of your product too, right?
Well, not by accident. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we
right.
make our own relationships.
You wouldn't want to move, Stan. You wouldn't want Natalie to show up and tell you you're moving in 2 weeks to someplace else in the market without a conversation. And that's what this is really about.
Sorry, John, real
If it
quick,
was-
can you, sorry,
Go
Stan, for meeting's sake, can you introduce yourself and say where you're from? Thank you.
John Chernus, Blue Moon Farm. You wouldn't be happy with a situation in which you were told, after being at your spot for whatever years it's been, that you're moving into.
Give me your spot and I'll take it.
What's that?
Give me your spot and I'll
Well,
take
what
it. That's
about
front row.
Would you be happy being
Oh
told you were
yeah, I
going to
take
move?
front row. I see the people out there.
Stan, I don't want to argue with you. I'm asking you if you'd be happy being told that you were going to move without a discussion.
Well, it depends where it goes.
Exactly, Stan. It depends. So this is an important question. That
So if you move to a good location, you're going to be happy. You move to a bad location, we start shuffling everybody around. There's going to be a few people not happy.
the question is whether or not there should be one person deciding this, or whether there should be a conversation about it. And there's an attempt to have inclusion and bring a lot of ideas to the table and see if you can get to a result that people are happy with. If we can't do that, everybody stays where they are, and when there's new spots, you put somebody in there. But you're messing with people's businesses.
No, I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Right. So don't sit there and say that it's okay. There should be a process that if you're going to take a vendor that has their business and they've built up their reputation in that spot, if you're going to just take them and move them, I don't think that's the way it should. That's not a very good process. And we're really at a crossroads with this entire market of destroying it. I understand the idea of wanting different products there, but as Stan pointed out to me years ago, people come with $20, so now they're going to spend $5 on salmon. Well, why not let's have bananas? There's no bananas. How about pineapples? I mean, really. No. It's either, when we first moved to Ohio 30 years ago, it was already well known that you don't go to a market where you're competing with people that buy things and bring them in. We started a whole new market. Growers only markets. And if you guys want to die or try to save this market with all these other ideas of putting other things in and panicking over suddenly we have some spots, we're going to destroy this market. And Bob and everybody's been complaining about making decisions without a thoughtful and slow and inclusive method. And now, I mean, we've lost Bob. You know, he's had to reduce his farm, and he's one of the founders of the market. And so you're going to take a whole row, and I appreciate why you're doing it. You want to make the market work. But maybe there's a better idea. And we shouldn't throw vendors underneath the bus. I don't know how many vendors in that row want to move. How many want to move, Natalie?
How many are moving, or how many want to move?
How
or
many want to move?
Well, they're all moving. We were all told we had to move.
And how many said great?
Most of the feedback is sitting here today, with the exception of Chuck. We talked in person, and he's fine with where he's moved to
Mm-hmm.
in row one.
The market is down 20% from last year in terms of the number of customers. Yeah.
We had just over 100,000.
Yep, that's down exactly 18% from the previous number. Because you
So
never,
you add that to the 35% from 2010.
you never get those numbers in these reports.
I agree 100% what you're saying, John, but I don't think 2 weeks before the market is the time to do this.
My point exactly. Leave
Okay.
everybody in that north side. It sounded like, from my conversation with Bob, that most of that front row is going to be taken up. And let's talk about what to do. But to move all those vendors without some sort of thoughtful process is a train wreck. And we already have a train wreck. There's a number of things that are impacting this market, but certainly salmon is not going to save it. They're just going to take $2 or $5 out of somebody else's pocket. And you're either going to support local sustainable food, and there's not much that's sustainable about bringing salmon to Illinois. Anyway, it's all connected. And you have a board that doesn't get to vote.
Hey,
You twist arms,
gotta
but
use your microphone, Stan.
but it's not a process. And we're here for a reason, and you guys are about to make some decisions that a lot of farms won't be here in the future. You're gonna continue to confuse people. Oh, do you grow it? I mean, Bob and I, we've all been around this. That guy had bananas. There was a guy that tried to give away bananas. What's that?
Well, he grew them.
Well, no. Remember the one guy when I first got here? We went and inspected their farm, and he was giving away bananas. Well, I'm giving them away. You just confuse the heck out of customers. If it's going to mean, if it's going to mean anything, you have to stick to a growers only market at the very least, let alone how you make all these other decisions. Or it's not going to mean anything. Customers are going to be confused.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lots, but, we only got 15 more minutes.
Which is the perennial problem, right? This should have been happening in January.
I do want to say, I mean, after talking with Natalie and their willingness to reconsider the spot that they had given us, that is then going to move other people from their current spot. And that also did not sit well with me, that it had to be a zero-sum game, that our gain was somebody else's loss. And I just don't like that. I don't, and I understand you have to make the hard decisions, but I think if there was a process and everyone participated or was given the opportunity to participate, at least we could come to some agreement, maybe not 100% agreement, but consensus, that we had a process and it made sense to most of the people. And I think that making sure that the people whose livelihoods depend on this market, that their interests come first, I really don't see what's wrong with that as an approach, because without us, it's not really a legitimate farmers market. And there are a good number of us whose livelihoods depend on this farmers market. And if we don't have this as a viable income stream, then we have to figure out a whole other business model.
But hearing you right, excuse me, if I'm hearing you right, though, you don't want food trucks or craft vendors there.
I mean, I've made my peace with the craft people. They, people can decide whether they want to buy from them or not. The food trucks, I really have very mixed feelings about it. At the market that we do in Chicago, the prepared food exists as a way to highlight the raw product that's there. So those vendors that make prepared food have to source from the farmers at Green City Market. And in that model, it makes more sense to have some prepared food, because at least people can say, well, I got this from this and these farms, and maybe you could make that at home yourself if you bought those raw products from those farms. Here, there's absolutely no connection to what is in those prepared food trucks. Okay, but she's the exception. None of the other ones have any obligation to use local farm products in their prepared foods, and there's a complete disconnect. So I really am not enamored of the food trucks, because I do believe that the dollars that are spent doing that are not necessarily our dollars that are taken away from purchase of raw product. I think John's right. There is a finite food dollar that comes to the market. It's not infinite. So I think as I look at the trends, as prepared food became more predominant at the market, our sales went down. I don't know if that's just coincidence, but
Markets are down nationwide. You know,
yeah,
we've
I
had this
know.
discussion.
Markets are down,
and that's-
CSAs are
things
down.
are changing.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
demographics is all changing. We don't want to talk about that now.
Yeah, I know.
But we've got 10 minutes, 12 minutes left. And it's 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
What's your suggestion?
Well, I would rather that we stayed where we were. If we have to move, the suggested location that Natalie gave us is okay, but I feel terrible that somebody else then is going to have to get booted from their spot because of us. I really don't like to have to be the cause of somebody else having to move. But because we need electricity to plug our coolers in, that limits where we can be in the marketplace as well. So my first preference is not to move at all until we can have a more thoughtful discussion, and that may not happen until the winter.
Is it absolutely necessary? Is there another solution that you thought of about just leaving that north row where it is? And it sounds like the front side of where Kleist was is okay, and it's the back side that you're trying to fill in?
Do you want me to answer, or is this geared towards the board?
Well, I think you're the only one that knows where you put everybody.
Well, I mean, the map is online, and people have been able to see it since February 1. We've been able to get a more complete picture of who's
Has
coming
anyone
back.
looked at the map?
I looked earlier today.
When I told you where it was.
And I've met with vendors throughout the past couple of months, and we've looked at the map.
Look at that back side, is that what you're trying to fill in?
No, it's more than that. It's about 30 spaces, 35 spaces throughout the market, throughout the season. I mean, it's not just that. That is one of the main reasons, but this wasn't just a willy-nilly decision. I mean,
I'm not saying that I don't think you make decisions.
I mean, I can't pull it up on here, but if you want to go to the market website, or I can show it to you.
I mean, my premise has always been with the market, it is what it is, and I wouldn't want to move any vendor that has built their business in a spot, and I wouldn't want to ask a food truck or a craft vendor or anybody to leave that market that built their business there. It is what it is. How we move forward, though, is a very important thing that we should consider.
And that's definitely been a conversation that I believe that this group has had over the past 2 years in the process of reaffirming the market mission and working through updating the priorities, putting together initiatives to work towards those priorities. I believe that the points that you're bringing up have been discussed by the advisory board, some at quite length. We've had someone come in and facilitate a meeting. Perhaps you were there when Deborah Kavanaugh Grant came and helped facilitate that meeting. There were quite a few additional meetings after that, special meetings, post-market wrap-up, and more than a couple of times the discussion came up about what the market's going to be like in 2017 and what we can do to reimagine the market, knowing that Bob was downsizing his operation and that there were some vendors that weren't coming back this year because of various reasons, retirement or health reasons or new business ventures. I mean, I could tell you lots of details. I get the whole scoop from most vendors about their situations. Not financial, no one ever shares that, but many reasons why we have a new landscape at the market this year. But we didn't realize what that really meant until March, when I heard from everyone. Not everybody came to our preseason meeting in January. I didn't really get a lot of feedback from that.
I think, so I hear as a vendor out there, a different story. You know, I don't feel the stat or the advisory board feels empowered. I don't feel that I've never heard someone say that it's a process that's working to the benefit of the market. I know I haven't gone to a meeting, the big meeting, for years because they're worthless. The data presented, no one showed. I built that chart last year myself so I could see the trend line. You don't, the city wants to make it sound great, and you put it, we had 4,000 vendors or customers at each market with an exclamation point. And what I see, we're down 18%. You know, there's no budget given to these people to work with every year that shows them the trend line of all the years. I had to pull that out myself last year to figure out what was happening in the market. The process really, I mean, you guys need to speak up for yourselves, but I haven't heard from one of you that says that you are that this is an empowered board that can hash out decisions and make decisions. It's an advisory board, and that's it.
We had some heated discussions.
Sure, but then you end up in a process where, I mean, somehow we've missed the the view that, wow, we've lost a major vendor, and you're moving people around, and two vendors are unhappy, and I don't think it's speak up, but as far as I understood, nobody knew about this move or where people were being moved to till within last week.
Well,
Is that true or not true?
part of it, we don't have 4 meetings a year.
No, I appreciate all of that, and I actually,
So-
this isn't a criticism of Natalie or anybody, but
And we donate
It is
our
a bro-
time. We
it is-
donate our time.
right. It is a broken process, though.
But pre Natalie, because you and I have had these discussions for years.
I'm not, this really isn't, you know, you have people that you're working with, and everybody has constraints. I appreciate that.
And no offense, but you guys left the meeting early that you come to earlier this
We
year.
were told to, actually. That's what was my understanding, that we weren't allowed at that meeting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That
We all
was-
moved
that's-
upstairs.
Well, no, that was what I,
Because we had some intense discussions that you guys have been
sure,
great to
no,
be a
I
part
didn't
of.
leave on purpose. I left because I thought I wasn't allowed at the meeting. So, sorry. Yeah, wasn't.
Just for information, how many vendors were moved this spring? Is it just the ones on the north side?
About 20
20?
to 25, if you count some of the other moves. Well, if you count the other moves within the market that weren't included on the north side, I'd say about 35 vendors altogether will find a new location this year for a variety of reasons.
And how are requests, if a vendor's not happy with their location, just in general, how are requests handled?
They call or email, and we try our best to find something that will either be open or available, or if they want to spot someone's in, then we call that person, and then we talk to them, and then move them.
So they're given an option if they wanted.
We try.
Okay.
We try to accommodate the best that we can with the space that we have available.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Natalie, when did it become apparent that you wanted or needed to restructure the market for this year?
The end of March. We knew it was coming. We didn't know in what amount and how much.
Okay, and you said the primary goal of the restructure was to add just more community space?
The primary goal is to fill in some of the vacancies within the market, allow for a little bit more what we call wiggle room or breathing room within some of the rows. So that's where some of the other movements have been made. Our spaces accommodate 10-foot tents, but the spaces aren't 10 feet wide. And so we've tried to build in over the years some overlap spaces at the ends of the rows. But it's become apparent over the years that we need some in the middle of the rows too. And so we've purposely left some spaces empty to help with that. And then in the attempt to help with some traffic flow issues, especially in the first row and in the northwest corner.
Okay, so the vacancies in between vendors is an issue because,
You can stand at the front of the market in July and you'll be able to see all the way through to Vine Street.
okay, so,
If we were to make absolutely no changes to the market from last year to this year, I mean, I could pull up the map, and I showed you a couple weeks ago when we met what that looked like. And I think Sterling and I both relayed our concern about what we do with all this open space, knowing that the advisory board has advised staff on not letting new people into the market that are bringing duplicate items. In that case, we've waitlisted about 35 vendors this season because they have applied to come to market bringing products that are already available at the market. So it's definitely an exercise in
What about treating it as a lottery and allow vendors to bid on those open spots? Maybe there's a lot of vendors that would like to move.
Oh,
Wouldn't work really well in this time period, but no. But I mean, in the sense that you throw it out to people, and you might have enough volunteers to condense the market.
right at this
You
point.
could send out a thing. You could send out a map to all the vendors and say, these spots are open. Does anybody want to move?
Right.
Contact me.
As a frame of reference at this point, we have combined of vendors and community groups about 125 approved applications. And there's been a movement of about 35 vendors, if that gives you any kind of understanding of how much movement that we've made in change of space from last year to this year. I don't know if that helps, but those are without, I can't access it
Well,
from
so
here. But
this is really new territory, shrinking a market. And
Yes.
it's really important to get it right.
correct.
And so certainly before you force some people to move, we should work pretty hard at getting it right. And kicking around ideas and seeing what options are there. I think I personally would rather have a hole in the market than look a vendor that says, boy, I did really well in that spot and now I'm tanking.
You can't, but you can't prove that until it actually happens. I mean, that's
Yeah,
not
but
proven
like you
negative.
said, I mean, I don't know, I don't think anybody here would want to move their spot. I didn't even like moving down 2 spots when we shifted one time. I felt naked and just, I mean, it was really, it's out of sorts. And so you don't want to come back to a vendor that just was forced to move and have them say, yeah, we're down another 20%. For what?
Natalie, do you get customer feedback as far as polls go or flow for the market? And if so, like, what are some popular things that you might hear about polls and traffic flow?
Sure. We get all sorts of feedback in all different ways, whether it's messages, direct messages on Facebook. We get a lot of those. Posts on social media. I get emails. And then we get direct feedback at the farmers market. A lot of the feedback that I've noticed over the past now almost 5 years that I've been in this role is about vehicular traffic. And so that's one of the reasons why we're opening up the northwest corner this season to allow vehicular traffic from the 2 parking lots. So we're moving our info tent into the market space and pulling everything in just a little bit, in hopes that when people can't find a spot or they get bottlenecked up by the barricades, they don't have to do a 40-point turnabout to get back out, to go down Vine to Illinois to come back in. So we've listened to that, and we're going to test that out this season and see how that goes. We get feedback a lot about asking where people are at or where to find certain products. That's one of the reasons why we started posting the what's in season chart and doing more recipe cards, because we have people coming in May asking where the sweet corn truck is. And so that was an eye-opener for us, because we had to remind folks that that's not a crop that's available right now. You know, we get a lot of feedback that market looks empty in May and in June because we all know there's not a lot of stuff available in May and in June. There's still great stuff available, but it doesn't look as plentiful. And so we get a lot of that feedback about it looking empty or people not wanting to come until July or August. And so that type of feedback is kind of disheartening, but it's also something to take into consideration, that if that's what people think when we have a full market, how does that play into when we have a market that has challenges? You know, how do we turn that into an opportunity? That's really how I'm trying to look at it. There's a lot of external threats that we have right now, and we're all aware of that. And there's been discussions throughout the winter, not just here, but in other places with other organizations and committees about how, as a whole, we are going to work together to figure this out. And so as those external threats are happening, I've really turned to this group over the past year, and I feel like we've built up a lot of trust. And if you don't feel like you have a voice or can't come and talk to me, I'm sorry for that. I've always thought I was kind of approachable, but I've taken into consideration a lot of what you've suggested and recommended, and making a move like this, it wasn't in spite or because I don't like someone. That's not the case. I value both of you tremendously as vendors, and you're important to the farmers market here and the local food system, not just here, but in our whole region. And so I, appreciate all of the feedback, and it's not like I go back to my desk and just toss stuff. That's why we're always working to update and evolve and change sucks, I know, but that's, as we put together this strategic plan update, that's why it hasn't been approved, is because I continue to get feedback and comments, and all of this ties into hashing out those priorities. It all comes back again and again. I don't remember what your question was, but I kind of got off on a tangent there, Shay. I apologize.
You did answer it.
Okay, probably 5 minutes ago.
Okay, we are past the time of the end of the meeting, so we thank you guys for coming.
You can stay if you
Yeah.
want. I do have a couple of quick updates to make, but you're the chair.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
You want to move to 5?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Any report?
Yeah, since we had to postpone the last meeting to today, I didn't get a chance to share about the staff report, which is pretty much the same as what would have been shared last time, but I do have a couple of updates to make. The annual report was presented to council in January, and a copy of that report is available online, and I have printed copies for you, full color ones at my desk, which I will grab. The SNAP EBT update, Link Up Double Value funds were awarded to the market. As you know, we didn't spend all of those funds during the last season. The $8,000 that we received from Farm Credit, we did spend all of those, and then the additional about $4,800 we received from Link Up Illinois. We didn't start those until the end of September, and so in September and October we didn't go through all those, and they're allowing us to carry over the remainder of those funds to this season. It's about $1,300. In addition, last week it was brought to my attention that Link Up Illinois is going to grant us another $7,500 for SNAP double value for this season. And then I also learned yesterday that Farm Credit's going to give us $5,000 for SNAP double value. So that brings our total up to more than we received last year in double value funding, and the most that we've ever received to date as the farmers market. So we will be preparing a budget amendment for council to accept those funds into this fiscal year, and then we are budgeting for that, or anticipating carrying over that into the next fiscal year so we can continue to use those funds throughout the market season. As a reminder, the city's fiscal year begins on July 1st, which is kind of inconvenient for market because we start in May, but we will make it work, and our finance department is very helpful in us strategizing how to accept those funds and then utilize them at the farmers market. There's been a lot of conferences and presentations over the winter time, many of which I've seen some of you or Sterling have. I won't go through them all because of time, but you can see them all on the staff report. The market launched a new website in the middle of March. This is the first time the market's ever had its own website before. Previously, we were some pages within the City of Urbana website, which you can still find the market from the City of Urbana website on the front page. The market logo is there, but the market now has its own standalone website. It's urbanamarket.org. Take a visit, check it out. Let us know if you have any feedback. There's some promotional events happening this season. The Farmers Market Coalition has invited us to take over their Instagram account at the middle of September. Earlier today, we spent the day at Hobbyco, a business in Champaign, at their health and wellness fair. We had a chance to talk to 300 employees and remind them that the market starts here in a couple weeks. We are joining forces with Paris and the Urbana Business Association to have a market at the Square Tasting Tent at their wine festival, and we'll get you more information on that as it's developed. There was a CSA fair, which many of you took part in, and then First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana has committed to co-hosting 3 Sprouts at the Market programs this year, and that comes with a $1,500 check from Farm Credit, or from First Federal, to support the Sprouts at the Market programming. So that helps us cover all of those costs. We had a preseason meeting in January that was pretty well attended, and we had some great speakers from the community to talk about small business development opportunities. Applications were opened in February, and the handbook was updated based on the feedback that I received from the advisory board over the winter time, and those changes are highlighted in the handbook that is attached and that you've all signed off on, that's on the website. So thank you for your feedback and updating that.
Natalie, it's not highlighted online, is it? The changes for
The-
this year in the handbook?
It should be, unless
I feel like I've looked and I haven't seen any highlighting.
maybe the PDF didn't export. I'll look again, Shay, and make sure that it's on there.
Okay, because I was looking for some specific things in the new handbook, and I was like, because the layout's all different now too, so it was really hard for me to find things. But, yep, that's it.
Yeah, I'll double check. We had to update everything with the transfer over to the new website, so let me make sure that the highlighted version is the one that's on there. I have to have a black and white version too, and so that's the one I have printed out here. Are there any other questions for staff?
Okay, so as far as new business goes, which is the discussion of the strategic plan, shall we talk
What-
about that,
There's
or
no way.
or just skip that for next
no
time? Yeah.
I got a question. Kind of goes on what John said. You know, they brought some important issues that I'd like to get in the plan, but if we don't get on it, we're going to be another year. Could we accelerate, and I hate meetings, don't get me wrong, but could we accelerate this and include, you know, these guys or whoever wants to come in and get this thing hammered out? Because otherwise, you know, our goal was this year. Well, here we are, and we don't have it done. And, you know, we're going to get busy, everybody's going to get busy, but we got to make time to do it. That's my opinion. But I'd like to see this thing done, so when we come on the end of the year, we do our post review, you know, and we've got, because this, John's comment, this is the first time we've had a shrinking market, which I think's okay in this environment, but we need to get it right, like he said. So, then that needs to be in the strategic plan, so we've thought it out a little bit, maybe, you know. So, just my,
I also kind of want to second having, in a couple of weeks or whatever, a meeting that we can just focus on the strategic plan, because I actually wrote a lot of notes down about things I want to add or change about the strategic plan. So I would love a focus.
because we need to get it right.
session. Oh, absolutely. And I, as much as I want it to be done, I don't want to just check a
Right.
checkbox. I want it to be something that we can stand on for a few years until it needs to be done, instead of something we're just checking off of our list.
But I feel John and Leslie brought up some good points today, so, you know, it needs to be part of it.
I mean, the
At least the
meetings are always
discussion.
open to the public, and we've had other people come and.
Nobody shows up, and that's kind of my point earlier.
And I'm all for having meetings if you guys are available to come. This meeting had to be I feel like every meeting we have gets postponed or moved, and I know that's the nature of it. But if you want to have another one, I'm
Well,
Urbana loves meetings.
I know that July meeting usually gets
Yeah.
pushed off. Like, it usually doesn't happen because it's crazy time. So I'm free now because I'm not working, but
I.e. all the notes, huh?
right, all the notes. So, and I think just because things are fresher on my mind and I have fresh notes for this meeting
That's
specifically, the sooner the better.
3 months, this old brain's gone.
Yeah, unless you take good notes.
Well, yeah. So, because I'd like to have you guys part of the discussion, you know.
Well, in speaking with the advisory board, everyone has deliveries and trips that all happen on opposite days, not to mention other obligations for other boards and commissions on other afternoons. One of the reasons why we moved it from Tuesdays to Thursdays was because of other market obligations. We have it in the afternoons based on feedback about working during the day. But if there's another date or time coming up, I mean, I'd rather get it down now than have to go back and do a poll and then,
Monday.
like,
the
this
weeks-
Monday?
I didn't say that, but I
Oh.
just, Monday, and I'm just being selfish, but for me, it works better, because once a week, it's after Wednesday, it's blurred. So, you know, the weeks, in general.
I need a date and a time. Now,
A little
make it
later would help.
later in the day?
Yes.
So like after 5 or 6, like an evening?
Well, the city council meets in here on Monday night at 7.
Okay.
And frequently staff is involved with preparing for the meeting. So, well, it depends on whether Natalie has something on the agenda that night or not, but that's something to keep in mind.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it's taken the group so long to get to this point with the, I mean, I think we started this in 2015. So now, I mean, in my opinion, it's time to do another survey and gain more feedback from our customers. I mean, we gathered that feedback and we did the big survey of our vendors and our customers and our community groups before things have changed in our environment and in our community. It was before new grocery stores entered the market, before new buying opportunities became available. Even in 2 years, times have changed. So,
In the time you get that survey done and do it again, it's going to change again.
but it's part of the process of getting all of the research and information and bringing that to the board and understanding our buyers, our customers' habits and needs and wants. That they're a very important audience and stakeholder in the market. But aren't they the ones buying from you?
It's a very complicated relationship you have with your customers. A lot of these farms are farms. If you want us to go become food trucks, we're not going to do it. You know, just because the customers want that. I'm not in, a lot of these people aren't in business because to get rich or fill a market. They're in business because for some reason they decided that they wanted to farm or they wanted to do what they do. So, and the survey data always seems to be sketchy anyway. I'm not saying that you don't survey, but it's based on who responds to the survey, and there's studies done on that. You know, I mean, it's really hard to get a good survey that you can make decisions on that really help guide processes. So,
Well,
I'm not
you know,
saying ignore us, not do a survey, but it's
everyone knows I hate surveys, so right off the bat. But to John's point, the last one we had, they said we need duck and rabbit. Well, there's a reason duck and rabbit ain't here, because nobody will buy it. They say they will, but we've had duck and we've had rabbit, and we end up throwing them away because nobody'd buy them. You know, you get that first saturation, your first 50 people, but if you set up production and blah, blah, blah and get it going, then you've saturated your own market because there's only 50 people wanted it. So is that making sense, kind of what you're, say a certain vegetable, somebody says certain vegetable, how many people really want that vegetable?
sure. I mean, you almost have to.
But it's in the survey.
The survey is good for the vendors to know what the market wants, but at some point, everybody's going to have to decide that they're going to live or die on a concept of a market that's growers only, and by that meaning that it's selling produce. I'm not saying no crafts or whatever, but it's a concept of what farms are and have been, and what really has shown to be their vehicle for success, and that's selling directly to the customer. And if it's going to become some other kind of market, well, that's fine, but that's not going to be one that has many different local producers in it.
Let me ask you a question, John. Don't you grow what you're best at and you know you can make money on, and you know it'll sell?
Sure.
So, survey ain't gonna really matter. You're gonna grow what you know you can make money at and you're good at it.
Right, but also, but I mean, if suddenly there was a market for daikon, we'd start growing daikon again, and you'd start, if you saw, you know, you'd start raising rabbits again if there was a market. No, you've had it with rabbits.
Okay, well, I think
this is
that
a
this
side-
discussion
yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be for the next meeting, so it looks like we've decided we're going to have a meeting sooner than later. Are we going to set a date right now? Does everyone know, or?
We need
I think we should try
Okay.
and set a date.
Okay,
Does a
so
week
let's set
from
a date.
today work?
Huh?
Does a week from today work?
What is today?
So Wednesday, the 26th of April?
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to set it later than our usual 4 o'clock?
Can we have another half hour or something? An hour is not enough.
I mean,
Can we go like 3 to 5?
as long as the conference room is open, and if it's not, then we'll go to another room. I mean, the reason why I said 4 to 5 was just to
This
be
guy took 20 minutes, John took another 20, we're out of time.
understood. I just know that this board, or this advisory board, is very different from many of the other city boards and commissions in that you are not all Urbana residents and you have travel time, and I want to be aware of that, and that's the feedback I've received. So I am open if the board is in agreement to change the time or make it longer. I mean, we knew that was the case when we talked about the strategic plan the last time.
Okay, so Wednesday, April 26th.
And the purpose of the meeting is to finish the strategic plan?
At least focus on it, at least take a chunk out of it.
Because we know we're not going to get it done, Diane, but
Okay.
we did nothing on tonight.
Okay.
We didn't waste our time, because that was all good stuff. But I want to get it done.
Okay, so what's agreeable time for everybody?
Well, now it's not for us now.
Are you going to check that?
You said you wanted 3 to 5?
3 to 5, I
If it
think.
was available.
Okay. I will find a way to
Okay,
make
3
it
to 5.
available.
How late can meetings be? I know.
There's some
Anytime.
meetings that don't even start until 7 and they go until midnight, so we can.
You get
But
over
that's
it.
not the plan.
Diane's future.
Okay.
Jason?
The CD conference room is open during that time. All other conferences rooms and this room are booked, but you can do it in the CD conference room if that works.
I mean, it's
Little.
little, but are you okay with that? Is police conference room bigger?
I didn't check on the availability of that.
No.
It is.
Okay.
I think police is a little larger.
We don't take that much.
But anyway, there's at least one room open.
Well, I want to make sure if there's going to be other participants from the market that we have seating available. I don't want to make anybody stand.
Is this, we're speaking upstairs? Or
In
where?
the conference room where community development is located.
That corner over there.
Right
Yeah,
over
by where my office and desk are at. There's a small conference room back there.
Just steal some chairs.
Okay. It's in the community development conference room a week from today from 3 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
The purpose of the meeting will be to continue at item number 6, new business. I will, if you approve, we'll just use the memo I created and the attachments for item number 6, and I will resend that to the group with a meeting invitation, so you can put it on your schedule.
Okay.
It's a public meeting, like all of the other ones, so.
But, you know, we got to fish or cut bait on something.
No pun intended.
We need no knife.
If that's something you want to talk about and then discuss next week. Yeah.
Okay. Any announcements?
Shay, did you have a question?
Well, do we need to give you? I feel like we should give you advice on Sitka and
That's what you said.
okay, and advice on
Fish or cut bait.
moving.
Do you want to,
We can we do that in the next meeting as well?
Is that too short a notice?
I mean, it's up to you.
Well, you've got that'll leave you with 1 week before the market starts.
Then that leaves with one, I mean,
Okay.
technically, you can do, what, if you want to make changes later on, we make changes later on. The things are always fluctuating.
But
Okay.
as a business, they need to know.
Understood. So, I mean, I'm relying on your feedback and your guidance.
We should advise on Sitka tonight, is my opinion.
As what?
Advise on Sitka salmon tonight, is my opinion.
Right,
But
right.
if anybody disagrees,
No, we should go ahead with it.
Okay.
I think so.
sorry.
I'm for him to be here.
Paris, do you want to do a?
Oh,
I'm not the chair. I'm just staff. So
you would make such a great chair.
Quiet, and I thought somebody was gonna
no,
Motion
that's a conflict
not
of interest. If I was chair, I would.
Okay. Who would like to motion on Sitka?
How do I word that? I moved to vote on it.
Or
I think you have to phrase it as something along the lines of we would give we recommend that Sitka attend the market as a vendor. Is there a motion to approve? Is there any discussion? I think that's how the rules would work. Diane, you would know better than I.
You could just say, I move to accept Sitka salmon as a vendor at the farmer's market. And then people can vote up or down. But then you would ask, after you get the motion made and a second, then you ask for discussion.
I moved to make Sitka a vendor at the outside farmers market 2017.
So for purposes of discussion, I'll second. Then you can ask for discussion.
Okay. Is there any discussion regarding this matter?
I think it's the wrong thing to do because you're going completely against our original basis. We are supposed to be Illinois grown. Yeah. And if you go against Illinois grown, you open a whole can of worms for everything else. Everything. And then we're going to go back to what we were 25 years ago. Free for all open market. Just my opinion.
I also want to agree with Bob in that they are a co-op. They are acting as a distributor. So if we open the door, I think it's a great product and I have it frequently. If we open that door and break that rule, there's no reason we couldn't have pineapples and oranges from Florida from sustainable orchards or sustainable farms there, but I think we have to draw a line and stick to it or it's going to get real sticky. It's going to get real sticky, and then again, with people walking in with only $20, that $20 to Sitka now goes to Alaska. It's not staying in Illinois, and it's not staying in our community.
Not to be a hypocrite, but John's comment earlier that we confuse the customers, the identity of the market, kind of hits home. I mean, I know I just made that motion, but you guys were making a powerful argument that I agree with. So I'm conflicted. I mean, because we have a business not too far away. I think that's part of their problem. They're failing because their identity's fogged, is clouded. So food, you know who I'm talking about. So I see both sides because I think it would be great. I know they got a good product. You know, we're going for full disclosure, we're going to be selling their fish through our networks. But I see what you're saying at the market. So can I rescind it?
Get their product at the co-op. I mean,
Yeah.
they sell it elsewhere.
So can I rescind the motion, or is that
No, you could just vote against it.
okay?
Natalie, do you have something to say?
This isn't their first application to the market or their first season to apply to come. This is probably their third season that they've applied to come to market. In the past, I've said no as the market director. I've said no to other items that were not Illinois grown, made, produced, created. But after hearing feedback from the board this winter and really trying hard to meet recommendations about product mix, I wanted to at least give them an opportunity for comment. So that's why I brought them to the meeting today. So looking for your guidance. Thank you.
Thanks.
You guys made a powerful argument.
I have nothing against our
No, I get it. I get it.
I'll call the question. So you say all those in favor?
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. All opposed?
Aye.
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 So no salmon at the market.
No salmon at the market? Okay.
You can pre-order it through me.
I don't get that.
Just can't sell it to us. If you're a buying club customer, yeah. This gray area is, we're not selling it to we're just handing it out.
Are you selling rock? I need some.
Huh? Exactly. And a pineapple on the top. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's going to help
Are
me
we
write that
ready?
letter?
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
You guys, this
Meeting adjourned.
See you on Wednesday, a week from today. Thank you for your time.